Hi, Joe Stedman. All right, ASL lesson number 2, concealment. Concealment is something that you're not going to find in a starter kit that is very important. It changes the whole way ASL is played. It makes it much more, what I would say, realistic. Another whole dimension of the game. Concealment represents, it tries to block the omniscient, godlike powers that you have as the player to try to create a sense of fog of war. You get these little question marks and you put them on top of your units, and if a question mark is on top of a unit throughout the course of the game, you may forget what unit that is of your enemies. You may come on the board, you may set up the game with question marks already on top of your stuff, so I'm not going to know where your stuff is at. And there's actually fake question marks called dummy counters, and that can, if you're setting up a defense, you can put dummy counters here and there, and then I'm not going to know which of your units are real and which ones are dummies. So it's the main thing, I think, in my opinion, of the difference between starter kit and full ASL is the concealment. So there's lots of things about concealment. This may take a few videos to completely get through lesson 2. So thankfully there's some tools that we have that can help us. First is this concealment loss and gain chart that you're going to get in the rules. I'll zoom in on this in a minute and show you how this works, but this is really easy to use. Also, make sure you read in your rules A12, the whole section on concealment. Just read through it before you even begin to watch this, before you start this lesson. It'll kind of help you understand what I'm talking about. A couple of key terms that you have to know is concealment terrain. That means any terrain to where, if you can picture in your mind's eye, where a guy could hide. So woods, buildings, grain, things like this, where if you're out there in the battlefield and you're trying to hide so that your opponent can't, or the enemy can't see you. So if you're out in the open, that's not concealment terrain. But if you're in some type of terrain, that's concealment terrain. That's important. Good order, which we know is a unit that is not broken or in melee. There's different things that'll take it out of being in good order. Alright, so here we go. We got, these are the concealment counters. This is a normal size, this is the bigger size. You use this for like guns and tanks and things. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's just talk about the normal size counter. So if it's just by itself, it's a concealment counter. If you put it on top of a unit, then it's considered a concealed unit. If it's by itself, like down here, this would be a dummy counters. So let's save dummy counters for different lesson. Let's just talk about regular concealment, the basics of it, how it works. So there's a couple ways you can be concealed. You can start concealed if your opponent starts off the table edge or off the board, or if after setup you determine you don't have line of sight to each other, you can conceal any unit or units that are in terrain that's concealment terrain. That's automatic. So if these guys were a big stack, you would just put one concealment counter on top. You don't put one like this, and then one on this guy, and everything else. It's just one per stack. It's right on top. Now, if that stack was ever to split up and go different directions and they were out of line of sight, then you would go like this guy can go this way, and then this guy can go that way, and you have another concealment, you can go that way, whatever. Positive things about being concealed is your opponent, if he's here shooting at you, he has half firepower. So if it's a 4 firepower, it would down be a 2 firepower. And if he makes any effect, a pin check, a regular morale check or anything, you're going to automatically lose your concealment, and then you're going to go ahead and do your roll. And once you lose your concealment, he's back up to full power. So that's how that works. That's one of the major benefits of being concealed. Now, if you ever move, if there's an enemy unit here, and you ever move in the line of sight of an enemy unit, and you're not assault moving, so your assault moving basically means sneaking, and you're not sneaking around, so let's say I went to here, well, it'd automatically be lost. You would lose your concealment. Let's say this guy was here, and this guy was going to go from here to here, 2 point. I say 2, well, I did not declare an assault move, he would lose his concealment, because this guy's got line of sight. Alright, but if I was here and I said I want to assault move to there, I would not lose concealment. So if you're not, unless you're moving in the open. If you move in the open, it's not the advanced phase, just move the regular assault move, you're going to lose your concealment because he's got line of sight. There's lots of things about concealment. The tactics of concealment are diverse. There's tons of them, so we're not going to get into those right now. So if you ever move in line of sight of an enemy unit, you lose your concealment unless you assault move. You can voluntarily drop your concealment. You can say, let's say you're not sure if this guy has line of sight to this hex from this hex, and you don't want him to get a free line of sight check, because normally in ASL you're not allowed to check line of sight unless you're firing your weapon. Well, because of concealment, it adds another part of the game. You can check line of sight for free just to see if I can see you, if you're concealed. So if I went 2, 3, you could say stop right there. I want to, well, this is right down the hex spine, so it's kind of obvious, but let's just pretend it's not an obvious thing here. You could say, oh, well, I want to check my concealment, so I get my string out and I can check, and it's a way for me to determine if I can shoot you without having to roll the dice. So what you can do is you can say, all right, I'm going to drop concealment. That doesn't cost any movement factors, and then go 2, 3, 4, and that way he has to actually roll the dice and possibly activate your sniper if he wants to shoot at you. So that's dropping concealment. So that's regular concealment. Guns and things like this, we're not going to talk about hidden placement right now. We're just talking about concealment. So let's say this gun was concealed. Well, this gun stays concealed. It's the same thing. If he shoots at the gun, he's half firepower, and then he knows that if it'd be 2 woods there, it'd be +1, but we're going to say he's an emplaced gun, so it'd be +2. So it'd be 2 + 2, and if he rolls low enough and causes an effect, I'll lose my concealment and possibly be broken or pinned or whatever. Just making me roll, though, loses my concealment. How do you get concealment during the course of the game? Well, let's look over at this chart. Alright, concealment loss gain table. It's real simple to use. During the course of a game, not at the end of each turn, there's something that we call it growth. It's just, we call it growing concealment. It's the very last thing that you do. You look at this chart, and it's the active player turn can possibly grow concealment. So it's real simple. Up here, the top left is going to be concealment is lost. Bottom right is concealment is gained. So you look at, there's infantry, guns, vehicles, fortifications. Let's just do infantry. Infantry, we want to see if it's gained. Infantry that's in concealment terrain, that's in line of sight to a good order unit, less than 16 things, can't get it. NA. Not in concealment terrain, still can't get it because you're in line of sight to a good ordered unit, less than 16 hexes. Alright, now let's look over here. Now we're greater than 17 hexes. Greater than or equal to, in concealment terrain. So there's an I here. So it's just simple, we go down to the bottom of the chart. There you go. And I would say concealment is gained, yada yada yada. You have to make a die roll. Alright, back up here. It's just simple ASL chart looking. After a while you'll memorize all these. Not in concealment terrain, you can't do it. Alright, here's the easiest one. Not in line of sight. There's no line of sight at all. If I'm in concealment terrain, I'm going to get it. Not in concealment terrain, I can roll. I know what J means, you're going to get it. K means that you're going to have to roll. Now look down here in the bottom right. Over here. There you go. Alright, so this is your modifiers. Now don't forget, the very first thing is your size, your unit size number. So a single man counter is a 1, a half squad's a 2, a regular squad is a 3, so on and so forth. Alright, let's look up here at an example here. Alright, so this guy up here, he's in concealment terrain, he's out of line of sight, he's in automatically grow concealment, he doesn't have to do anything. This guy down here though, he's in the open. First thing you do is you need a magic number of 5, take his size modifier, which is a half squad, so it's 2. So it's going to be a 5, 4, 3. Then you have the -1 leader, so it's back up to a 4. So he needs to roll a 4 or less, and he'll get concealment. So if he rolled, let's say he did that, you get the concealment. And then the leader, so this guy would grow concealment. And the leader would have to roll himself. It's not one roll. So the leader size modifier is a 1, and can't modify himself, so all he has to roll is a 4. So maybe simple. Alright, that's how you grow concealment.